Hello there. Good morning. Okay, this has to come up just a little bit. There we go. Now y'all can see it. I need the timey tongs. Okay, I almost got this fully set up. So, today we're going to play Stevens by Rolla and Costa, available in North America by Capstone Games. And we're going to do the solo one. And I read the rules ahead of time this time. And I like the way that this solo works. It's just a deck of cards. Do what it says. If you can't do what it says, you pretty much just keep doing what it says. So you can't. It will always say what it says. So let's move this down. Morning, Corthane. Morning, Legends. Oh, I need to put this thing up here so I can see the ad break. Comes there. There we go. Bum ba da dum and bum ba da dum. Okay, so it's a very simple game to set up. We have contracts, investments. These are decks. These are going to come out onto here, representing the cost that you're going to have to pay. And the contracts are coming out on here, representing the cost that you have to pay, but you're going to pay in influence instead of money. We all start with some influence. Oh my gosh, 4 a.m. When do you start your beach walk stream? I'd honestly think that you probably haven't even slept yet. Okay, 1, 2, 3 for the left, 3 for the right. Oh, wait, no. That's how this goes. You see the top of the deck. The deck goes there. I have long arms. Now you can see my bald spot. Oh, those are on Saturdays. Okay. Canada Dry. Made with real ginger in Canada, not in the US. For some reason, you just woke up. Well, let my soothing voice lull you back to sleep and play some board games. I don't know how to give shout outs. I haven't been doing that, and I really should. Is there a button for that? Poll. Stream together. Add. Sub only chat. Manage prediction. Goals. Raid channel. Clip that. Edit stream info. Add button. Ooh. Excuse me. Oh, there's no shout out button. What if I click your name? My gosh, excuse me. Block and report. Yep, that's definitely what I want. What's this button? Mod, no. This button? Warn, no. Timeout, no. Block, no. Why is there no like quick button to shout someone out? Manage suspicious user. Yep, these are all things for Legends, 100%. I don't have like any commands though, so I think it's I have to do like the Twitch one, which is / shout out Legends DM. Oh right, and I have no enter button. There we go. Ta-da. Okay. Can we see everything? Okay. What about our zoom in buttons? I made some zoom in buttons because I figured out how to get the 4K back into OBS. So we've got the zoom in here. Okay. So this is our player board setup. You got all of these bits. Some of them have things on them. So it's kind of annoying to have to flip everything and find out which ones are blank and which ones go in a specific spot. The blank ones you're going to use to show your professions. So this is me, and this is going to be the bot. And then the bot has this many, which definitely do not fit on this card. They've got so their first one is already gone. There's the 4. There's the 3. Blank goes like that. And 1. There's the 2. So 2, 3, blank 4, blank 2 more blank ones. Okay, so that's the bot setup. The bot doesn't need any more pieces. I love this insert. And all of this organization. We're going to need space here to build out. Okay, more of my, okay, back to my setup by blank pieces. Blank pieces, blank pieces. Okay, so you find these pieces here and match them up to their spots. So let's go over them as they go. And so these are enhancements that you can get to your game. Enhancements on this side are for victory points, and enhancements on this side are for in-game bonuses. So this one here is to allow you to take 2 contracts or investments instead of 1. This one allows you to pay 2 cubes for the exchange 2 cubes for any 1 cube during the reset phase, the glass blowing phase. This lets you have a take 4 cubes from the small factories, 2 cubes and 3 cubes, respectively. This one lets you ignore the building bonus here. This is OP, 100% OP. Like this tile is broken. This gives you a discount of -1 when buying a contract or a investment. However, only to 1 card. You don't get like a total thing. This one lets you clear out the top card and then go for buying. And this one lets you wipe out the left or the right professions and refill them. You already know what one is coming up next, and then there's one more that you won't know. This one here, this lets you get 1 point every time there's a reset phase. So it's pretty common to go here. These ones are just blank. And these ones are blank. These are blockers here for your influence around this track here. And then one of these is going for the score marker. Oh, I guess I did forget the score marker for our robot. And then the other one is going for the dunes and forest track here. Is there supposed to be 2 there or 1? Yeah, there should be 2 there. Why don't I have an extra 1? Because this also, and then this starts at 2. Because this one, this goes here. And this goes here. That's because the starting profession that you put on here actually comes off of this board once it's fully full. That is why I was missing 1. Okay. Now, for starting setup, when you're playing this game in normal, there are 4 of these starting profession cards. You're going to pick a side to put them on. And then you're also going to pick which bonus you're going to get. So these are tree-related bonuses. So these 3 are the ones that you can pick from off the bat. Or sorry, nope, this one is the arrow. Sorry, this one and these ones you can pick off the bat. You can't do this one until you've gotten this one, and you can't do this one until you've gotten this one, and you have to go up following the arrows here. Same thing over here. You have to get rid of this one here before you start getting these end game scoring ones here. Anytime that you commit to a profession, you will take one of these off of your board. This one here is your influence. You're starting with 2 because you need to be able to purchase stuff. And it's going to block you. So if you want to get more influence, you're going to have to make a profession for that one. So I'm going to decide that my starting one will be the point per reset. No, I don't really need that right away. I'm going to take 2 goods from the small factories at the start. Once it's here, doesn't matter, you can flip it over. This is just to tell you what's underneath of here. Okay, and then so the bot setup, they did the same thing. They took the first tile from here and assigned it to the opposite factory side of where you're at. So they are over here. Which one's number 2? Cool. Let's make sure we've finished the rest of setup properly. And then we will teach the game. Game board, red professions, blue professions. Yay, go team me. I might win against the solo player. And we're going to play on easy. Where'd the card go? Which doesn't really have an easy mode. They actually call it loose, normal, and tight. And so that's just when the game stops. So it can either stop at 20, 25, or 30. So this means I have, in the loose game, I have more time to get points before the French army takes over the town. Normal is 25, then plus 1 turn. Okay, cool. Oh, I technically should have took the starting board that had the start player, but it doesn't matter. In a solo game, you are always start player. I also feel that this game, with this little broken piece here, I think, it broke this part here, because every person you put here at the end of the game is worth 5 points. And like someone had a ton of people up there, and it was deadly. Supply, investments, player setup. Okay, I get an accessory tile of my choice. So by the time I am picking this, we do know what's up here. And so this one requires a chandelier, this one requires a chandelier, and this one requires a chandelier. So I'm going to take a chandelier. I get $4. They are called Escudo. So this is set in Portugal. On their turn. Okay, and that's how we play the game. Okay, and then solo. Oh, right. 3 translucent cubes instead of 4. Okay, so factory setup is step 6. Place 4 into each furnace. Okay, so we're just going to do 3 instead of 4. So this furnace produces the green glass bottles. This furnace produces the blue glass bottles, or whatever they're called, I don't know. And this one, these 2 furnaces produce the plate glass, like windows. Oh, I guess, oh, that's actually kind of cute. Thematically, you could remember it based off of this here. So the green glass is bottles. The blue glass is wares, and the transparent glass. No, that doesn't make sense at all because they call this plate. What do they call them? Bottles, glassware, and plate glass. Bottles, glassware. Yeah, I guess that works. And plate glass. The plate glass doesn't really make sense here. They should have put like windows or something in here. Okie dokie. So in a solo game, instead of 4 on each of these spots, you're placing 3. There's also an advanced solo where you can add a game changer card. I'm not playing with those. What I find weird is the Atama cards they all have different backs. So you kind of know what they are, or am I supposed to put these a different way around? So shuffle the 10 Atama cards and create a face down deck in the designated Atama player. Because these all have different back faces, I'm not sure which is face, so I'm going with that's face down. We're not using the scenario or the opponent cards, and we've got, oh, where's the other player aid? Oh, it's only 1 player aid. It says 2 times player aids, but it's actually just double-sided. Rule changes. End game determined by 20, 25, 30. Workers / apprentice plus 3 then bot. Oh, right. And at any time, I can never have more workers than plus 3 of the bot, which is something I think that needs to exist in the base game because of that whole problem with having too many people up top. Place the worker supply card in the tournament's play area. Worker supply card done. 10 discs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One, 2, 3, the number 4, 5, 3. Oh, I did miss one. Where did I put that box? They get this card. 3, 2, blank, blank. Okay, that's the Atama set up correctly. Place the remaining discs on the Atama's color in the general supply. These will only be used in rare instances. Take 7 orange cubes, 7 pink cubes, and 7 black cubes from the general supply and place them in a supply near the autonomous play area. Okay, now this needs to be like a random draw, so I'm going to throw them in this so I can... It's honestly not that deep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And these represent the glasswares that have been made in the smaller factories, not the Stevens factory. 1, I've come to talk with you again. 4, 5, 6, 7. Does this have a curve in it at all? No, not really. Okay, give it a random worker assigned with the first worker spot. Choose a difficulty level. So we're going to trigger the final phase at space 20. I am always the first player, and I can never have more than 3 workers above the Autonoma. So the Autonoma has 1 right now, so I can have 4, and I have 1. If they time to exhaust their face down deck, take all their cards. Okay, and then this goes over all of their actions. So their actions are largely just going to simulate taking one of these off of the board, taking one of these off of the board, killing off a contract or taking one of these off of the board, or hiring a profession from either side and putting it on the board. And then whatever their card was, there is a spot on the bottom of it that tells me what I need to do during the reset phase. Okie dokie. I'm just going to grab my rag. I have a perpetual runny nose from my surgery. It looks gross, but it's not that gross. It's just water. It's actually technically liquefied fat leaving my body. So gross. But now I'm skinny. Black is so slimming. Okay, so let's try and teach this game from these cards, which I had no idea what they were at first. Zoom. So this is just the reset phase. Here's what you can do on your turn. Take from the top part of the Stevens factory a piece of glass, and then you're going to, everyone who is in these shops will then get to activate whatever the bonus ability is here, which is pretty cool. Or take from the bottom part of the Stevens factory. This one gives you contracts. So you're going to buy them here for influence, spending your influence here, or you're going to buy them on the other side of the board for money, spending your money. So that is the cube actions you can do. Or this actually is missing the small factories. So you can also do the same thing with the small factories. Take cubes from the small factories once they are there. And I'm starting out with the take 2 cubes from the small factories instead of 1 cube. Or what you can do is place one of your professions by hiring a profession that's up at the top of the board, paying its cost. Once 2 out of the 4 factories in the Stevens factory are empty, then we're going to go into a reset phase. On the reset phase, we advance the French army 5 steps. So from one X marks the spot to the next X marks the spot. We are going to add cubes to the recently emptied factory based off of where the French army lands. So that's going to tell us how many cubes we add. And then we are going to remove all of the cubes that are in the small factories so that we can go on to the next step, which is to get our 1 point per reset phase if we have unlocked it. Then we're going to go in and fulfill our contracts. So how this works is once you've got these cards here, and this is a weird rubric screen. I probably didn't give myself enough space. And contract is going to go down here until I've done it, but this is going to go into here right away. So on the during the reset phase, I'm going to get the cubes that are in this kind of section here, but I don't get them to keep. They're not in my bank. And that's important for the next step here for the reset. I get to use those in order to put them out into the small factories. The small factories, depending on what cubes you put there from the engine that you build on your board, give you extra bonuses. So influence, more contracts, influence, goods tiles, money, hiring a profession, money, and another goods tile. And that adds cubes to the board so that during the cube taking phase, you have cubes that you can take to, once again, reactivate the professions that are on the sides of there. Once that phase is done, if this card has something like this on it, this means I now need to go down in the dune track. Actually, this one's the forest track. And so when I do that, at the end of the game, I'm going to evaluate where I am at on that track to see if I'm getting 15 points, 7 points, or no points. And there's two tracks, the forests and the dunes. But the dunes is represented by water for some reason. Once you have resolved that phase there, so the investments phase, we then move on to the contracts phase. Whatever cubes you have managed to collect, you can then spend them to complete your contract. Once you complete a contract, it then goes on to the other side of your board. And these are based and placed based off of the matching icons here. At the end of the game, both of these have this kind of weird matrix scoring that they didn't give a little thing about. Is it on the score sheet here? Not really, it just says score them. What's going to happen is that you're going to score this one. You want to fill out the row, the column here. And then for however many cubes there are, so right now I have 2 cubes and 1 card, I'm getting 2 times 1. If I had this card 3 more times, I'd have 2, 4, 6 cubes times 3 cards is 18 points. So you kind of want to fill these out, but some of these have like 1 cube on them, and some of these have 2 cubes on them, right? So now I'm getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 3 cards for 15 points. I think that's, I'm gonna double check that. Hold on. That sounds too big. VP on your scoring track, VP on your forest and your dunes track, VP for workers assigned to cards. Oh, yeah, right. So then each one of these workers, so like every worker here is worth 1 point, every worker here is worth 3 points, and every worker here is worth 5 points. Any backup workers, any apprentices that you have on these, so sometimes these have 2 spots, then you're going to get 1 point for each of those. Okay, and then your completed contracts. For each column, multiply the number of cubes in that column by the total number of cards. Oh yeah, so I got that right. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 3 cards is 15 points. Okay. Then you're going to get any victory points based off of what you have unlocked during the game. So you've got 1 per 2 cubes, 1 per $2, 1 per influence left over, 5 per each set of goods, and 1 point per reset phase throughout the game. And then it goes into tiebreaker. And then in the solo version of the game, the Autonoma doesn't really score any points. It's just how many points you have made and how good you were. So I don't know how I feel about the Autonoma not having a... Actually, no, I think I kind of like that. Maybe that's what I like about solo games versus the solo games I don't like. I need to figure out a way that I can hear that you played that without hearing my own audio core thing, because I only just saw that. But yes, hello, darkness. My ads look like they are wrong. Oh no, coming up in 30 minutes. Okay, so that is right. Okay. Never mind. So let's put these back. I don't remember which order they were in. And let's start the game. So I had decided to go with taking 2 from here. That's a dumb move. I'm not doing that. I'm going to go with the 1 point per reset phase. Now I'm going to look out here and I'm going to see, I keep rubbing my nose with my hand. I'm supposed to do it this way. I see blue, 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 a lot of blue. So I'm going to take a blue cube, which triggers all of the workers over here. So the Autonoma would technically get $1 or an influence point. But the Autonoma doesn't collect anything. I'm really just simulating. The Autonoma in this game is just taking things away from me, it seems. Did they give it like a little solo explanation at all? In solo mode, you face off against an Autonoma opponent. The goal is to determine which one of you will ascend to the role of the next Master Elastic and reporting directly to Stevens. No, not really. Really just, I'm trying to score the highest score I possibly can in a solo game. Which kind of makes it like a video game, I guess, right? Or an adventure. And now it's the Autonoma's turn because I took a blue. All right, so the Autonoma cards. I need this one here. Put this over here so I can see it. Or over here. There we go. This makes no sense. Get my drink out of the way. Okay, so this Autonoma action says remove 1 cube from the indicated furnace space. If there's no cubes in that space, follow these arrows. So it's telling me to remove from space 7, which is here. Done. And then after removing white cubes from one of the lower furnaces at the factory, remove the indicated contracts or investments. Why they didn't print this card to tell you that you need to remove this one because they took this. Oh, because if you can't take that one, I see. Okay. And so now it's telling me to remove contracts 1 and 3 from the game. That's the Autonoma's turn. At the end of a player's turn, these slide up and get revealed here. And now it's my turn. And I know that he's going to go affect the small factory next, which is weird that I know what they're going to do. So I am going, we need white. I can't get pink, and we got the chandelier that we need. So getting these 2 cards wouldn't be bad, but that costs 4 influence. I only have 2. And the best way to get influence is from triggering these cards here. So I'm going to take a white plate glass and pay 1 influence to get this card here. You pay 1 influence here. The Autonoma wants to do stuff up here, but it can't, so therefore it takes something from here. Kind of triggering any of those contracts. Okay, and on my turn, I would like to get that influence. Oh wait, so this should have slid up. I'm gonna get a new card. I have what I need for this card here, and that's a crown, so I don't really want this one. This is a flag, which is another blue and a thing here. So I'm going to take the blue, triggering all of those, but I'm not there, so it doesn't matter. The Autonoma is going to take the deck card here, and they're going to place it in the first available spot. So when you place these, it has to make a pyramid, unless you've got this game-breaking one where it says you can go the same amount as what's below. Otherwise, it needs to make a pyramid. So there's one here. I cannot put one here because there's not two here. So they're going to go here instead. And we just stack these, and then they're going to take this worker, and they're going to put it on here. So now this one has an apprentice spot. So if I decide to place a worker here, when this row is triggered, I could spend $1 to get a chandelier token. So on my turn, I want to get this one here so that I can spend, oh, I don't have 2 influence to spend. So I'm going to grab this one here, and I'm going to take an influence. They're going to go into the Stevens factory. They're going to take from here, triggering this row here. So I'm going to take that as an influence. They didn't take a card, so it doesn't matter. Now it's back to me. I'm going to take the white one now, and I have the 2 influence to buy this card. 1, 2. And now 2 of the 4 are empty, so we go into a reset phase. So the reset phase, follow the usual steps with 1 modification. In the final step, supply these small factories with these cubes based off of what's on here. So I have reset phase. Advance the military to the next spot. So it's going to go from this spot to this spot here. Refill based off of cubes. So in a 2 and a solar player game, so this has 3, 3, 2 on it. That means 4 player, 3 player, 2 player. So I assume I fill back in based off of 2 players. I should have also filled this up. So that's going to be 2 cubes. And so we're putting 2 cubes here, and we're putting 2 cubes here. So whichever factories were emptied, you're going to refill those factories with the amount of cubes based off of what is printed on the board. Then we remove any cubes that are in the small factories, and we move on to the next step. 1 point per reset phase if you've got it. I do, so I'm going to get 1 point. That's 0, so that's 1. We're going to collect any of our goods here. Why does this say 1 point? Oh, collect your points and do the Dune scoring. So I'm getting no points here. I'm getting no Dune scoring here. That's done. Put them onto the small factories and get your bonuses. We don't have any of that, so that's done. And now we may complete contracts. You can complete as many contracts as you can afford. So I can complete both of these contracts. This one here and this one here. That costs a white and a blue. And this one costs a blue and a chandelier. If you have a contract that has a wild on it, instead of putting that back into the supply, you're going to put that on that token so that at the end game, you know the set collection that you've done for this per set collection. Then we now, actually, sorry, during that phase, I'm supposed to do this part here. So 3 of these cubes, so mix these up, look not randomly, 1, 2, and 3 of these cubes are going in this spot here. Or sorry, starting here and then going this way. So it goes like this. So this little card here. Where's the camera? Focus. Says, it's a little blurry. It says take 3 and start in the top corner and go around. I don't know if I can do it this way. Nope, over here. There we go. And tilty. I need one. I need that like overlay camera thing that people have. That would be neat, wouldn't it? Next time. I need one more camera though. I already have 2 cameras in here. Okay. That is the reset phase. I did that on my turn, so it's now the autonomous turn. They're taking this card and placing it here. Putting their 2 discount token out. I don't know why they have these on here. I think that's only for the advanced game. Okay, so I got no points besides that 1 point. These are a good in-game point mechanism, and I have a lot of money, so I think I'm going to buy some of those. But Let's base this off of this here. So this was a pink and a chandelier, but I already have a crown card. I would like this card down here, which requires any card, a black cube and a white cube. So I can take this black cube and I would trigger that row, doing absolutely nothing. Autonoma takes from here, triggering this row, doing nothing because it's all theirs. I am going to stop being dumb, and we're going to take out kill one of these cards things because I want this, and we're going to put this down here. So that's going to be worth 1 point at the end of the game. And now anytime the Autonoma is taken from here, I'm actually going to get bonuses when they do that too. So I'm not losing out on that. The Autonoma is taking from factory 3. It can't take from factory 3, so it takes from factory 2. And then if it can't take cubes, it goes down to here, but it took cubes. Okay, now back to me. I can only swath off one of those. So if I get a blue one here, that's not bad. Let's take a look at what's over here. I have $1, $2, $3, and $4. That's down on those, down on those, down on those. I really don't want to do that. It did seem detrimental last time, so I'm going to go buy this one. So I take this white piece of glass here, and I buy this card. It now goes into this spot here. And I pay $1 for that. There's a gray cube in there for some reason. These slide up. Right, so technically this deck actually lives down here. So that you go like this, and then you can put your discards there. Although I think that's off camera, so you can't even see it. Oh well. You don't need to see an empty deck. Look at my deck! Okay, they're going to take from here. That is a contract space, so they're going to get rid of number 1 and number 3. Thank you very much for getting rid of those gross cards. I still don't have enough to get down to here. How can we wipe that out a little bit more? This will give me $1 and an influence. So I could get more influence. That'll give me $1. That will allow me to spend $1 to get a chandelier token. We're going to need to do that eventually. So let's take the blue. We're going to spend $1, and we're going to get a chandelier token back. Okay. The Autonoma is going to the small factory, taking this one. It can't, so it takes this one instead. Back to me. I'm going to take... Oh, we're going to go into a reset already without a contract to score. There's no things up there to get that pink that I would need for this, and I don't have the 2-to-1. And this pink can't be used for these. These cubes here can't be used to pay for this stuff here. They're two separate banks. So I don't want to go into a reset phase, so I have been kind of ignoring building out my professions. So let's take a look at our professions here. Costs 1 influence, and I can spend 1 influence for $1. Costs $3, gives me 2 influence. Ooh, oh, but I don't have $3. Costs 2 influence. I can discard any cube to go up on the forest track. That's not bad, because that's worth points in the game. Costs 3 influence, and I can go up on the forest track. I don't have 3 influence, so I can't afford that. Oh, and these top cards should also be visible. Costs $3, spends $1 for influence, can't afford it. Costs $3, spends $1. Okay, can't afford it. So each of these has 2 in them now. So I can now build up here. And so can the Autonoma. So I can afford only this one. And I'm going to build it up here. So that costs me 1 influence. And I'm going to take out the -1. I think that's really nice to get out quite early, so that contracts and what to call it, are reduced by 1. There it is. Okay, the Autonoma is going to the small factory. The small factory is empty, so it's now going into here. Triggering these cards, which gives me $1 or an influence. I'm going to go with an influence because a lot of these cards up here cost influence. And they now triggered the reset because 2 of these 4 are empty. We advance this to 45. We refill the market with 2 cubes each. We wipe out any remaining cubes on there. I get my 1 point for my per reset phase. I now get 1 pink from the supply. And I get 1 point. I can now spend this 1 pink. It can go here. It's the only spot 1 pink can go, and that will give me $2. We can then go into completing contracts. I don't have any contracts to complete. And then now, it's my turn. I'm going to need more influence to get that contract that I want. So we're going to go here. I'm going to take this as influence. The Autonoma flips and shuffles, right? So that I don't actually know what the next thing is, right? Yep, shuffle them and do a new face down deck. And proceed as usual. They are going to the small market. Nothing, 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 nothing. They take this away from me. Oh, I think this is supposed to go out of the game. So they had taken a few things. I'll just throw one of them out randomly because it's random anyways. They took things so they don't go to the bottom part. Excuse me. Okay, so now I'm going to take this one here. I'm going to wipe out this card. These slide up. And it's now a discount of 1. So that costs me, I only have 2. Darn it. So this is a black and a blue. I do have that, so we'll buy this one. There's a discount of 1, however, you can't go to 0. So this still costs me 1. And I don't have the buy 2 cards thing. Okay, so that's done there. And these slide up. The Autonoma is going to the main factory, doing this, triggering these cards, giving me $1 or an influence. I'm going to go with influence. So once again, I'm trying to get these contract cards here. And they get their own stuff. I am going to, if I take here or here, trigger a reset phase. I have enough to score this, which is okay. I could kill that. That would bring this up to here, which would cost $2. Yeah, that's going to do that. We're going to do that, and we're going to try and do 2 contracts at once. Ooh, but I don't have 2 black cubes. So no. Let's wait on that, actually. And instead take this one so that we can populate that with black cubes. We don't have any. Get 3 points, but go down on the dunes, go down on the dunes, go down on the dunes, and go down. So this one is $4 minus my discount is 3. So I'm going to take this one here. 1, 2, 3. So that at the end of the game. Okay, I'm missing something here. There was something about the columns and the rows here. Okay, you just have to activate the entire columns one by one is all. So we activate these columns. That's 2 points for me. 1, 2, plus my reset point. 1 is 3. I get an orange and a pink cube to throw out onto here. The combination of orange and pink doesn't give me anything here, so I'm going to drop the orange here for 2 influence. 1, 2, maxing me out there, so I might want to get that out here. And dropping the pink here for $2. And they're going to randomly throw 3 out on the board. So we're going to look away, grab 1, 2, and 3. And they are going to start, once again, in the top corner, going 1, 2, and 3. Ooh, no black cubes still. Yikes. Okay, now we go into completing contracts. I complete this contract for a black and a blue. I don't have any others to do here. I triggered the reset phase. Oh, forgot to do this part. Which is supposed to be done first. Putting 2 here and putting 2 here. Okay, I triggered the reset phase, so it's now their turn. They take from here, triggering these. So I can spend $1 to get a chandelier. I do not need an extra chandelier, so I'm not going to do it. On my turn, I would still like to get to this card. That will cost 2, but I also need a black cube, which I cannot get, so that's no reason to go after that. This is a white and an orange and a food goods. I don't have... I can get a white and an orange, but I can't get the food good. None of those allow me to buy a food good. The professions that are out there right now give me more influence for $3, which could let me have a little bit more freedom with the contracts I'm buying. For 3 influence, though, yeah, I think I'm going to build... Oh, but I want to... These ones that like let you go up to get you more points are really good to build up in the small factories. But I now need to build 1 more here, then 1 more here before I can build up to here. Because remember, this has to be a pyramid. So let's go with flexibility. This is on this side, so it has to be placed onto this side here. I'm going to place it up here. So when something's taken from here, I can get 2 influence points. This costs me $3. Your discount does not apply here. It's only for the contract and other cards. Oh, that should have been flipped up there. And then I'm going to pick the game-breaking one of building wherever, so that I can now start to build in that 5 spot here and here, because they'll now not have to be a pyramid. They can now be equal instead. Although I'm currently maxed out on influence, I probably should take that one pretty quickly. They're going to the small factory. They are going to take from here, triggering this, so I can spend 1 influence for $1. I'm maxed out on influence, so I might as well do that. And I don't have any money. On my turn, let's go after some contracts, I think. Let's see. Negative, 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 negative. I don't want any of those. This one is the one I would like. Or getting a black one up here would be good, so we can get black cubes out onto the board. But they're not there. I'm actually quite enjoying this one solo. It's very smooth, unlike some of these other solo games I've played. White, orange, and a random good. But how do I get that? Not a random good, a specific good. How can I get that specific good? If I put a black and an orange here in that end phase, I can get a specific good. If I put a black and a pink here, I can get a specific, any good I want. But there's no black cubes to be put there. So really, we need to get this wiped out. You can choose to not activate a column. So I think that's what I'm going to do to kind of wipe these out. So I'm going to take this glass from here, wipe out this card, slide these up. and then pay the dollar to take this one instead. So I can take 2. And slide these up just to try and get this market to refresh a little bit. The Autonoma is taking from here, triggering these. That gives me 2 influence. I can only fit 1. I will, oh, this card should have gone here. And we got a new card here. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this costs an influence. I can spend 2 influence for $3. This costs 2 influence. I can discard a cube to go up on the forest. I'm going to go with that one. And I'm going to place it in the 5 spot. And I'm going to get rid of this block here. 1, 2 influence. Because I now have this ability here, which lets me break the pyramid rule. Only by 1. So these can be the same. I can't go bigger. Oh, we got ads. We'll be right back. I figured out a way that I can hear your sound requests.
I'm in danger.
I figured out a way that I can hear your sound requests.
I'm in danger.
I don't know how much that echoes, so y'all let me know how much that echoes. I just wanted to see how loud it was coming through on stream.
Thanks for the warning.
Okay. I forgot whose turn it was. They did that. I got the 2 influence. I did something. I'm pretty sure it's their turn. They're going to take from here, which activates my card. Whoop, whoop. So I can discard. I have way too much of this clear glass to go up in the forest. So now I am in the positive points area. So they obviously don't even get to do any of that, so it doesn't matter. Back to me. I would really like to get this contract, which costs 3 influence, which costs me 2 influence. I can do that. I can wipe this out, actually, first, sliding these up. And now I can get this contract here. Oh, but that costs black. Oh, this also costs black. Okay, whatever. I'm investing in my future. That costs 2 influence, minus 1 is 1 influence. Okay, 2 of those are not empty yet, but they're about to be. They're going to take from this one. They cannot, so they take from here instead. Because they took from there, they're going to get rid of number 2 and number 4. And these are going to slide up. And now we go into a reset phase. I get a point for the reset phase. We move the person. Remember to do this 1. Ooh, only 1 cube each is coming in here. Wipe out these cubes here. Get new cubes. I'm going to get the 2 points here. 1, 2, between an orange and a pink cube. And my orange and my pink again also really only get me $2 and 2 influence. 1, 2, 1, 2. And they're going to put out 2 starting from this way. Yay, we got a black cube, finally. Okay, now we can finish contracts. I cannot because we are done there. Okay, and it's my turn because they triggered it. I'm going to take this black cube because I'm going to need it, which then triggers this. So I can spend 1 influence for $1. They're going to go and they're going to hire this person here, and they're going to put them in the first logical spot that they can. They don't have the rule breaker card yet. Right? Or do they? No, they don't have it yet. So they, 3 is next, then blank, then 4, and then these. Okay. Once they have that rule breaker card, though, I imagine they can do that. Oh, I guess this does make sense. 2 and 3 and 4. So when they do their action of taking from the small factory, they take 2. That's neat. That's actually really cool. That's a really smart idea. But anyways, they're building this person here then instead. Now they've got their rule breaker token. Jerk. Back to moi. I have this card here. So we have the white, the black, and the chandelier. Game is going to end at 20. A normal game ends at 25. And a tight game ends at 30. So let's think about endgame. What do we have for time? Let's go to the normal game. So we're going to end at 25 instead of 20 instead of the loose game. So that means we need to start thinking about endgame points. So I need to hire some professionals and get out some endgame points. So I have the rule breaker, so I can put someone over here. So I want to get a 5-person up in here, and I want to take something here. And this is going to be 1 per 2 cubes, and I have a lot of extra cubes, so I'm going to do that one first. And I have $3, so I can afford this one. This one costs any cube, but I'm taking the one that gives me cubes, so I don't want to spend cubes. This one costs me an influence. This one here I'm going to go with because it costs me $3 that I have. I can spend $1 to get 3 influence at the end of the game, or when this triggers. So now that I've unlocked that influence spot, my next logical person to hire is going to be the point per influence. They're going back to the small factory. They are going to take from here. They are taking 2. Let me do this correctly because they have their 2 marker out. And then they're triggering this, which gives me 2 influence. Thanks, game. Back to me again. We have the one contract here. If we can get another sailor contract and another British contract, this would be another black cube, which we don't have. This would be white, green, and black, which we also don't have. This would be a blue and anything. This is possible, but expensive. I can only get it down to costing me $4 or $3 for 3 influence. And we're going to need the thing. Okay, so we're going to do this here. We're going to get the blue that we need for it. Spending, oh, we don't have the dollar. Okay, so we're actually going to prolong the turn a little. We're going to take the green one so that we can activate this row and take it as $1. And we're going to hope that they don't trigger the end of the things too fast. They're going to hire this person here into the first spot that they can. They can break the rule now, so they're actually going to hire them over here. Something's wrong here. These are supposed to be able to go like this. This is on the wrong side of the game. Okay, this belongs over there, which means that I probably couldn't have done there. And they're going to now go here. I think that evens things out enough. Reduces my points, which is fine. Shuffle their deck. Back to me. Okay, we're prolonging the turn. Now that I have the dollar, I'm going to do this one so I can spend the dollar to get the chandelier token. They're going to wipe out 2 from here. They can only take 1 though, and they're going to activate this row. I can spend 1 to go up on the dunes. I don't actually intend on going down anymore. Oh, that's on the, yeah, on the forest. I'm already in the plus 15, so I actually don't need to bother activating that because I'll get more points from keeping them from my 1 to 2. Back to me, we're now going to take this tile, wiping this out, sliding these up, giving this one here, buying this for a discount of 1, so it costs 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we will now be able to do that and that. Sliding this one up. And now we go into a reset phase. I get 1 point for the reset. I'm getting 2 points for my cards that I'm activating. I'm going to take 3 pink and an orange. I could have took the pink last time, actually. 3 pink and an orange. Orange and pink, once again, still gets me nothing. I don't have the 2 to 1 during the reset. So what we're going to do here is get... Ooh, I think there's a rule about not activating this twice, or that you can activate it twice. Let me double check. Oh, you can. I'm pretty sure you can do this multiple times. Yep, you can. Okay, so this will actually give me $6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this will give me 2 influence. 1, 2. They're going to plop out 2 of these, starting here and going here. Oh yeah, I put that down. Oh, and I didn't do this. We replenish. 1 and 1. Okay, and then so the next reset phase will be the last one, and then I get 1 more turn. Okay, we did that part. Now we can do this, so I can pay for both of these contracts. This is a wild, so it stays on here for that scoring at the end of the game, but we're definitely not going for that. And this one's a blue, and here. And that stays on there. Okay. Contracts. Done. I triggered that. Their turn. They're taking 2 from here. Good morning, Cosmic. How are you doing? Activating this, so I get 2 influence, and I can spend 2 influence for $1. I don't need to. We're just going to take the 2 influence. On my turn, I really need to get a British contract to maximize my points here. So this is a blue, a green, and a black. There is no black on the board. The other there's no other British contracts here. So that's no good. Do these columns have to be completed? I don't think they do. So I could actually just go for one of these that's got 3 things on it, or 2 cubes on it. Because 2 times however many are in that column. If it was the crown, it'd be going over here. It would only be worth 2 points. And that's costing my influence. So it's actually better to get these out. So let's go on a hiring spree, shall we? So we can place someone here because we're allowed to break the rule. So let's do that. 2 influence or a cube. We have so many extra cubes. We're going with this one here, here, and here. And we're going to get the... We have more money right now. Oh, that's for 2, though. This is per influence. So we're going to put the influence scoring one in there, and we're going to throw out one of those cubes. To do that, they are going to take 2 cubes from here. Oh, wrong one. They're taking 1 cube from here. Activating, and then they're going to get rid of 1 and 3. Come on, give me an English contract. Nope, worldwide and crown. On my turn, you still need to hire more to get that scoring thing out. I want to get the money scoring out. I can put 1 here, 1 here. Both of these are worth 3. Putting 1 here, though, allows me to get up to the 5 there. Putting 1 here allows me to get up to the 5 there. So are any of these beneficial? Not really. This one's cheap, though. It only costs $1. And so 1 per $2. All right, they're going to hire this one into the first available spot. They're allowed to break the rule. So they're taking that spot. And they're now going to take 3 resources from here. Jerk face took my spot. We can't get the contract out there. Those are only worth 1 point. Getting money, influence, and cubes is the best thing that we can do. None of these give us a significant amount of money. Pink cards give us good money, though. So that costs money, though. I would swap that out, give me 1 and 2. Yeah, that's worth it. So we're going to take this cube here. We're going to drop this card off, swipe these up. We're going to buy this 2 pink cube for $1. So for essentially $1, I'm getting to go into here, which is going to give me $4. So that's a pretty good move for me. Oh no, the NDI cam froze. Okay, so the problem exists on all apps, not just... Oh my God. That's so annoying. Oh, ruined. Ruined, I say. This is the wrong one. Well, it's a good thing the game's almost over. But I don't know how long you haven't been able to see for. Where's my camera? Where did it go? This is not the right one. No. that angers me so much. There it is, NDI HX camera. Ugh. Okay, well, we officially need to delete that app from our phone. We're going to request a refund from Apple because that cost $30 and they broke their app. And I just had to spend $12 to get the one that everyone else apparently uses called from Sienna. That triggered a reset, which triggers the end of the game. Yeah, I know. I don't know how long you haven't been able to see for Cosmic. I know most people tend to just listen in the background, so. We will see once I go to edit it. But this is the first crash, so I will be able to see how long it took before it crashed. But yeah, at the like 1 hour mark, I think it crashes. This one is using a different camera software that I bought, but I don't know if it will transmit 4K. So now that I know how to properly put it into OBS as 4K, I can see if it's actually coming through as 4K. Reset phase. That's done. That's done. I got a point for that. I get 2 points for that. I got 1 more point for that. I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pink cubes and a orange. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We wipe out cubes that were already here. That gives me $10. And the orange cube gives me 2 influence. We refilled, we reset, and we filled. Got my point. I got that. Now I fulfill contracts. I don't have any more contracts. Okay, so how does the game end here? Then +1 turn. Autonomous player or player can still fulfill contracts after my last turn. Cosmic, thank you. You're my first ever subscriber. I've not had any subscribers. Wait, how did I swear you just used your Prime on Timey the other day? How do you have another Prime already? I think that gives me $2.50. So thank you very much. I can buy half a coffee. But it ain't about the money. It's about the exposure. I like to I'm not going to finish that sentence. We can complete contract. Okay, so now we get 1 more turn. I triggered that. Yep, see, I didn't even finish fulfilling that. So it's the autonomous last turn. They are going to take 2 from here. They can't. They take 2 from here, so they can't. So they take 3 from here. But they can only take 1. So I wonder if they take and keep going or not. Remove a certain number of cubes from the indicated small factory based on the highest number visible on the autonomous worker supply card. If there are no cubes there, follow the arrow's direction until you are able to remove at least 1 cube from a small factory. If all small factories are out of cubes, follow the... Okay, yeah, so they do at least... They just stop there. Oh, yes, now you get the emotes you can use everywhere. Let me know if any of those need to be changed because I've never actually had anybody use them. Instead of just in this own channel. My last turn. That's no good to get me. Cubes are worth points. Influence is worth points. Money is worth points. So this will give me 1 influence. Not great. This will give me 2 influence. That's great. This will give me $2 per influence and 3 influence. This one. We're going to go activate. Oh, I can't take anything here. So I'll take 1 here instead. Because that gives me 2 influence versus this is only giving me 1 and 1. So 1, 2 influence, and I max out. So now we go into scoring. Awesome. Use them, use them, use them. They give us analytics on our most used emotes in other people's channels. so I will know it was you and me. Because I also count. Okay, so now we go into final scoring. What does this mean? Oh, score track. 15, 16, 17. I don't have a pen and my phone is right there. Where's my hand? All the emotes. You know what? I took the pens into that room the other day. Oh, it's actually kind of warm in here. Okie dokie. So, oh, there we go. My score track is 15, 16, 17. My Dune track is 15. This pen sucks. My guys here are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Oh, actually it's 23 because the next one is Apprentices, which is 24. Okay, scoring for influence. I do have the 1 per influence. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points there. I do have the 1 per 2 money. Hi, Bobo. Come on up. Come say hi. We're scoring. You want a treat? Come on up. Yeah, up. No, you have to come sit for everybody. Come sit. Why are you taking the hard way around? There you go. Yes, it's a boo. Oh, and he's gone. 10, 11, 12, that's 6, 7, 8. Wait, what? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 is 7 points. In money, the goods, I'm getting 0. The per 2, 1, 2, 3, I'm getting 4. My contracts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 1, 2, 3 times 2 is 6. So 6 and 5 is 11. That is 31. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 28, 29, 30, 5, 39, 40, 0, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 120 points. The game says I am a loser. I am an apprentice. Less than 120 VP on normal is apprentice. 121 to 159 is an artisan. And over 160 is a glassblower. So I got the bare minimum, as usual. But I technically cannot lose at this game, so that's cute. All right, let's see who we're going to go after. Yeah, less than 120, and I got the 120 exactly. There is nobody in English playing board games. So who am I following? Gosh, Monster Hunter Wilds, Retro, Miss Vidams. She's awesome. Similar or smaller size. These people are all way bigger than me. I don't know who any of these people are, so we're just going to end stream instead. But now I get to do, oh, bare minimum. Duchess 1105s is in the board game scene. Duchess 1105. Let's see. Okay, raid. My doohickey didn't go boopity boop. Search. I've spelt something wrong. Let's try that again. Duchess 1105. I spelled it with a T. There is no T. Oh my god, the virtual keyboard on this thing is so bad. I'm having the worst time of my life. I hate this keyboard. Ah, there it does chatting. That's why. Okay. How do I... Okay, this button. Okay, I did that. And then I get to do this. Let me know how much this echo costs me.